Welcome to another episode of Changing Habits, Changing Lives. Hi, my name is Azzy Aslam. I coach people to make transformational changes to their performance, their work, and their lives. I use neuroscience and psychology of habits, routines, and disciplines to create an awesome mindset to help my clients make those changes successful and long-lasting. Today I'm going to cover a question which comes up quite often in conversation and also with my clients, which is how long does it take for a habit to become a permanent habit? You've probably seen a ton of articles and information when you search for this answer that sort of suggests that 21 days, 28 days or 30 days, and if you do something for those number of days, you'll have a new habit, and off you go, you've got this new habit, and that's all it takes. There's probably even adverts out there that saying if you come to us, we'll do something to your mindset, and actually you'll have a new habit today. Now, if you did listen to my very first podcast, and if you do have a few minutes, I would recommend that you go and do listen to it. You will remember that we talked about what goes on in the brain when you create a new habit. And the habit can be activities that you do physically. It can also be in terms of how you think, how you feel, how you talk, and also how you perceive things. Even perception of your world around you, things that you hear, is something that can be formed into a habit over time. And whenever you do those activities, I talked about how the neurons will fire, and then as the neurons fire together, they'll start to wire together. That wiring together will create the pathways, and those pathways will then get stronger and stronger and stronger as you actually repeat that particular habit or that particular perception or that particular way of thinking. So what we're trying to do is create these neural pathways by firing these neurons and then repeating that habit over and over again. So how long will it actually take for this to happen? The first thing is it depends on how complex the habit is. Is it just something very simple that we're trying to change, or is there lots of different aspects of it? How we feel, how we think, how we actually perceive stuff, and then added into that, some physical activity that we actually have to do as well. So depending on how many pathways and neurons we have to fire together, it will vary. The other piece of this as well is how often can you repeat this habit? Now, one of the habits that people talk about is getting up early in the morning. Clearly, you can only do that once a day. But there are other habits, or there's other things that you learn. I talked about learning a poem. Now, if you can actually repeat that poem, 10 times a day, the chances are that will become ingrained in the brain a lot faster than perhaps something that you do just once a day. So just to go over this again, there are two things. One is the complexity of the habits and the various activities, from the physical activity, from how you think, feel, even talk and perceive, but also the repetition of that particular habit, whether you can do it several times a day, or it's once a day, or even if it might be once a week. And it just depends on those factors and how quickly the neurons actually fire, they connect together, and then those pathways are created. Now, from what I understand, repeating something regularly on a daily basis, so once or twice a day, it takes around about anything between 30 to 60 days to actually get the neurons firing and then wiring together, so they start to create those pathways. So anything up to about 60 days is really where the definition of that habit has been formed in the brain. Now, this is just the start. So this is where you've actually hooked things together in the brain. Now what you have to do is keep repeating this over and over and over again. Now go back to the example of the poem that I used in the first episode. You can learn that poem, you can repeat it 10 times a day, and you will start to remember that poem. Now, it'll take a number of days. It will probably not take 30 to 60 days to do that, probably less than that, but you'll remember the poem from start to finish in probably a matter of days or a matter of weeks. And if you did ever learn a poem or anything you committed to memory, you will have found that if you stopped practicing learning that poem or that activity or perform that habit, in a matter of a few days, you will start to forget bits of it, or the habit doesn't actually form properly. So even though you've connected it, you sort of know the poem from start to finish, just taking a few days out will start to unbuckle some of the connections in the mind, and you'll start to forget the words or the sentences, and you will have to start again. The longer you leave practicing or doing the habit, the more chances are that the habit will be lost, that the neural pathways will break down and the neurons will stop firing together. Although the habit is still sort of there, it remains in the mind. The sooner you get back to repeating the habits, learning the lines, doing the activities, the sooner those connections will start to fire together and start to strengthen once more. However, as I mentioned earlier on, the 30 days, 60 days for most habits is really the point where the habits, the neurons and the pathways have now connected in the brain. They know what to do, they know how to do things, and this is where you now have to keep repeating the habits to make it stronger and stronger, so it starts to become automatic. Now that process can take another 60 days, 90 days, even a year for things to be completely embedded in the mind, so it becomes a very automated activity, a habit that is now part of you. Just to summarize, once you've defined which habit you want to create, and I mean create rather than change, once again listen to the first episode. Changing habits is tough, but what you focus on is creating the new habit. Define what it is, what the elements are, so what are you actually going to do to create that habit or learn that new behavior. Keep repeating it daily or as often as you can during the day for at least 30, 60, 90 days. That will help you get the neurons firing, wire together, the pathways connected, and then keep repeating that forever and a day really, but for as long as possible. Then and you'll know when it's become automatic, you'll know when it's part of your makeup, and then the habit has been formed. It's now part of you, and you can move on to the next habit. The thing I would caution as well is when you are making changes and you are trying to create new habits, focusing on one habit at a time, or at least simpler habits, rather than trying to tackle lots of different things. This is where we go wrong when we do New Year's resolutions. We'll have lots and lots of resolutions about getting up early, being more active, going to the gym, etc., 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 and we end up with lots and lots of things to do. And within a matter of a few weeks, it becomes quite overwhelming, not only to you physically, but also to your mind, because your brain and your body is saying, well, hang on, this is not what we used to do normally. And it does sort of kick back, which the reality then is that most New Year's resolutions, when we get into February, most of them have been sidelined. Focus on one thing. If it's not a complex habit, you can probably do 2 or 3 of these. But if it's something that's going to take a lot of effort, a lot of time, then focus on one thing at a time. Yes, it's going to take 30, 60, 90 days to get it embedded in the brain, but at least it will be embedded. And as long as you keep repeating it, it will become part of your makeup. Then we can start to look at other habits that you want to formulate and create and become, help you become the better version of you. Well, that wraps it up for another episode. If you do have any questions or comments, please do pop them down in the comment section below. I will come back to you as soon as I can. And also, if you have any ideas or thoughts of what you would like covered in future episodes, that also be great input, and I can make sure I focus on the things that you guys want. If you want some more information, please do pop over to my website at comentra.com. That's comentra.com. Check out the blog. There are some more articles on there about habits and about changing your lives. And if you're listening to this on iTunes or Stitcher, please do subscribe, and it'll let you know when the next episode is available, which I hope you'll find extremely useful. In the meantime, thank you very much, and I look forward to the next episode. Please look out for it, and hopefully see you soon. Bye now.